What's up, everybody, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, spring has sprung, as spring it does. And look, there's a little ladybug right here, where actually that, I believe, is not a ladybug, but you can see by the little marking on its forehead, it might be a fake ladybug beetle thing. That is a invasive species. That's too bad, but there are a lot of ladybugs out anyways that are real ladybugs, and that's exciting. So, in today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about an event that is coming up very soon that you may or may not be attending, and that event is Blade Show 2022. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a very, very exciting time. We're going to have a lot of good fun at Blade Show, as we normally do. But I wanted to go over a little bit of the, flipper suggestions for a Blade Show. Some of the stuff that I suggest you do, some of the stuff that you want to know so that you're, not bothering anybody. Because here's the thing. Blade Show is the world's largest knife convention, and it is specifically about knives. And the truth about Balisong people is that most of us aren't really in it for the knives themselves. Many of us are in it for the flipping aspect. And, there are people who are genuinely there for the knives by themselves and not just the flipping, but I would say the majority of people into Balisongs are into it because of the flipping. And that means that we're kind of a weird breed at Blade Show. Blade Show is specifically a convention for people who are into knives. And so we are kind of the outliers there. We're not knife collectors, we're Balisong flippers. And while that's really good, it's cool to be a Balisong flipper and go to Blade Show, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be the best time, right? You're gonna potentially bother people. There'll be people there that aren't expecting you to be there, that aren't very welcoming or anything like that. However, in general, I will say the experience at Blade Show is usually very positive, overwhelmingly positive. But there's a few things you should know as to not bother anybody. Now, one of these things I've talked about before, and that was my flipping in public video. And here's something to be very aware of. When you're flipping, nobody can tell whether or not you are flipping a real knife or a trainer. And especially at a convention that is the world's largest knife convention, basically every person who is a regular person is going to assume that the thing that you are flipping is a live bladed knife. You're at a knife convention, it would make sense for you to be flipping a knife. Therefore, most people are going to be somewhat afraid of you if you're walking around flipping a Balisong. And so, rule number one of Blade Show is absolutely don't flip your Balisong while you're just walking through crowds of people. Never do that, because you're going to scare people, you're going to get people that don't understand what's going on, and especially if you are actually flipping a live bladed Balisong, you could drop it on someone and injure them. We had a thing happen, I believe at the last Blade Show, where someone was flipping their Balisong and they dropped it, and it was like a razor sharp Balisong that literally landed on a child and cut the child. So there is very good reason to not flip in areas where it's crowded with normal people. You want to only flip in designated areas. And what I mean by designated areas doesn't mean it has to be an officially licensed Squid Industries flipping area or whatever, right? That's not the point. The point is, if you've got a group of flippers who are all hanging out and you guys are flipping and you've got a little, powwow spot that you're hanging out and you're flipping there, that's great. That's a good area. As long as it's separated, it's away from where the crowds are. A lot of times you'll find little spots of flippers that are just, we're all standing in a little circle and we're all flipping. And that's really good. In those circles, there's a certain, kind of idea where everybody there is comfortable with getting cut. If somebody drops their Balisong and it lands on you, you participated in that circle. You elected to have that happen. The other thing, too, is that all of us are much more accustomed to A, getting cut, but B, to dodging falling knives. We drop our knives all the time, and we get pretty good at dodging them. Therefore, it's a lot safer to do those kinds of things in those kinds of circles where you have a bunch of people who all participate in the same hobby as you, instead of doing it, randomly with a bunch of people. Also, look, I found an isopod. Hello, friend. So, yeah, that's rule number one, is don't just flip randomly. Don't just flip in random spots. You always want to flip somewhere where the people around you are also flippers and they understand what's going on. Something else that's important to note is don't flip directly in front of certain booths. So in front of the BRS booth or the Blade HQ booth or the Squid Industries booth, don't stand in front of the booth and flip there. Why? Well, there's some really good reasons for that. One of them is that the whole point of these companies showing up at Blade Show is, yes, partially for us. They're there for the flippers, and they're there to sell products to the flippers, but also, especially for companies like Squid Industries or with BRS with their bare bones and stuff, those are entry-level Balisongs. And they have entry-level people that are coming up that are interested in that, and they aren't aware of how flipping works. And so if they see a whole crowd of people standing in front of the Squid Industries booth, they're not going to walk up and try to buy a squiddy. They're going to feel like they're blocked from being able to even get there. And so that's kind of a big problem. And so something that we need to do is flip in the designated areas. So with Squid Industries, they actually had an entire space relegated next to their booth that was entirely for flippers to use, right? So it was a really, really nice spot where people could just go and flip their Balisongs, and, you know, it would work out great. And that was the intention of that space. And I'm certain they'll be doing a similar thing this year. It was also similar with the BRS booth as well. They had a spot where people could go and flip, and it was really, really nice. So, you know, respect the booths, obviously. These creators, these manufacturers are the backbone of the Balisong hobby, and so we need to support them at events like this. And that's why it's very important for us not to block the booth by having a bunch of people that are standing there and flipping in front of it. Instead, use the areas that they've provided very graciously, because the thing is, every square inch of floor at Blade Show is extremely valuable. You have to consider, right? This is the world's largest knife show. Every single square inch of floor could fit another knife booth. And so it costs money to buy that floor, right? And so consider this with Squid Industries, when they have a booth that's like, they have one whole square of the floor, right? That's their booth where they sell from. And then they have a whole other square of the floor that is entirely blank space just for us to flip at. That cost them as much money as it cost for the area of their booth, right? It costs the same amount of money to rent that extra space that they're going to leave empty just for us to flip in. And that's something that I think people don't really think about, right? Is that, like, this space is expensive, and they're buying that and letting us use that to flip literally out of, like, the graciousness of their own heart. They're like, you know, the community needs space at Blade Show to flip safely, because if we're walking around and flipping and potentially hurting normal people, you know, if you're walking through crowds and flipping and dropping your knife on children, we're going to get banned from Blade Show. Balisongs won't be at Blade Show anymore, and that's not something that we obviously want. Blade Show is a really, really big deal for the Balisong community. It's something that, you know, allows us to all come together and hang out, and so it's very important that we respect Blade Show at the same time as they respect us. You know, they give us that space and they allow us to exist in their space, and we need to show them the same amount of respect in, you know, not actively harming people. Something else to note is, so yeah, don't walk around randomly, obviously. Don't flip while you're walking around. You only want to flip in areas where you're either alone or you're with a group of flippers and you all are in your own space. You don't want to get with a group of flippers. You know, be cognizant of where you are, obviously. Like right here, right? I've got this table to this side and I've got this stuff over here. So this would be a main walkway. And so if we were over here in the corner and we're all flipping with each other, that's great. But sometimes what will happen is you'll have a whole group of flippers that'll end up like right here. And this is in the middle of this walkway. And it's like, you know, how are people supposed to get through there if you've got a bunch of people that are all standing there like doing cool tricks on their knives? You know, it's like, that's like a terrifying gauntlet that you'd have to get through if you're one of the people going to, you know, just hang out at the Blade Show. And so that's something that you really do need to be aware of and careful of, is blocking people's paths and not flipping in public like that. Okay, second thing is don't be stupid. Please don't be stupid. We've had in years past literally people in the public areas of the hotel that people will hang out at. They call it the pit. There's an area in the public hotel where people will go and hang out, and we have literally had people taking live bladed Balisongs and throwing them off of the first story down to the like floor. So they're going off of like the second story, throwing Balisongs down to the lobby for people to catch and then flip. And that's stupid. That's really stupid. A bunch of normal people are there that are just hanging out, and throwing a knife off of a second story down to the first story is really dumb. If you want to go to a Airbnb that you rented that is only flippers, and you guys are gonna, throw knives off the balcony and act like idiots, that's great. You can do that by yourselves, but do not do that in public spaces. Don't do that at a hotel. It's a really good way to get banned from a hotel indefinitely. Don't be stupid, is all I'm saying. Don't do things that are dumb and that could endanger other people. Please be careful, and please be cognizant of what you're doing and where you're doing it. It's all very important to Blade Show. Okay, some other things to know. In Blade Show, there's a few restaurants, but not a whole lot. You've got like a Subway in there, and then there's like another sandwich place, and then there's like a place that has like teriyaki. However, right across the street is this mall. It's one of the largest malls in Atlanta, and you can go there, and the food court is really awesome. So I highly suggest just taking an Uber over to that mall, or you can walk, but it's a relatively long walk, so I'd probably just Uber. Unless you have your car, then obviously you can take your car. But there's a mall right across the street, so definitely know that if you're going to Blade Show, you can easily go get some really good food at the food court of the mall. Or even better, there's a ton of good restaurants around right next to the area where Blade Show happens here in Atlanta. And so definitely, if you're interested in, exploring some of that Atlanta cuisine, there's a lot of good stuff around there. And I might even make up a list for that. Another thing to know is one of my good friends, the guys over at Zenith Productions, specifically Clockwork Flips, has made a really, really good map for Blade Show 2022. And he shared that with me, and so there should be a link to both Zenith Productions and the map for Blade Show 2022. And it's specifically a Balisong Flippers map. So it's a map that has the BRS booth, the Squid Industries booth, the Microtech booth, like all the little booths that you might want to go to as a Balisong flipper. They're all marked on this map, and it's a very convenient map. It also tells you where the Balisong flipping competition is, and this is another thing that's very exciting for Blade Show. So if you don't know, there's the Balisong flipping competition. It happens every year at Blade Show 2022. You can sign up for the Bally flipping comp at Blade HQ's website. So if you Google Balisong flipping competition and go to the sign up on Blade HQ's website, I think it might still say 2019 if you Google it. Like if you Google Blade HQ Balisong flipping Blade Show, whatever, like the Bally flipping comp, it might say 2019 on the page, but if you hit the sign up button, it will be the sign up for the 2022 version. So you don't need to worry about that if the page is a little outdated. It's okay. It's still for the newest version of the sign up. So definitely sign up for that if you're interested. It should be a really fun time. I'm actually thinking of participating in the flipping competition this year, which would actually, I think, be my first time participating in the competition. I've watched it plenty of times, but I've always missed the sign up window, so I might actually do that this year. What else is there? There's so much stuff at Blade Show. It's such a big convention. It's such a good time. But please, please, please respect people while you're there. Be very careful and cognizant of what you're doing. Don't flip, as you're walking through people, and just respect people while you're there, because both the dealers that are there need our respect, and the people that are actually visiting Blade Show itself need our respect, because without that, we're going to get banned from Blade Show. Or, without that, say a bunch of people stand in front of the Squid Industries booth and they, can't make a lot of sales outside of the Balisong community. And while that seems like it might be fine if you think about it, Squid Industries makes a ton of products that they prep and are producing and they're keeping just for Blade Show. Like they get hundreds and hundreds of products that they're just prepping and making sure that they have ready, and they need to sell those at Blade Show, because that's the whole point of them holding on to them the way that they do, and prepping them and making sure that they have everything. And so it costs Squid Industries a ton of money to do one of these shows. And so if we all stand in front of their booth and block their ability to sell to people, that's not going to go great. That's why they give us that area that they are paying for to go flip in, and we should be respectful and making sure that we're doing that. Also, just in general, if you see me at Blade Show, please feel free to come up to me and say hi. I really, really like meeting people. I might be busy at the time, but I will absolutely take the time out of my day to say hi to you, if possible. The only time that I might not be able to talk to people is when we're actively filming. We have a few different booths that we're going to be visiting this year and making videos on. I know we're going to be hanging out with the different makers, seeing what they're up to, kind of same as we did last year, if you remember our coverage of Blade Show in the previous year. And so, you know, something similar to that will be happening. And so if I'm at a booth and I'm interviewing somebody, I might not be able to talk to you right then, but I would definitely love to talk to you afterwards, even if I can't talk to you at that moment. So if you see me at Blade Show, please say hi. I love meeting people. It's really, really cool. And yeah, that's pretty much my whole spiel for Blade Show. I know there's more that I definitely forgot to cover, but, you know, for now, I think that's at least going to be a pretty good starting point for people, you know, talking about Blade Show, figuring out how they actually want to go about visiting and, you know, behaving at the show. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I was just hanging out, flipping my serif today, and I hope you guys have a good rest of y'all's day, and I'll see everybody later, hopefully at Blade Show. So, you know, if you're coming to Blade Show, definitely leave a comment down below and let me know, because that'd be pretty exciting. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Hope you all had a wonderful time. I know I did, and I'll see you later. Peace.